Carlos Ghosn may not travel outside Lebanon. The former auto manager, the top executive Ghosn, may not be allowed to leave the country of Lebanon. And the reason is because of the international extradition law that could actually bring him back to Japan that has already been signed off by Japan through the Interpol, because Japan has already claimed to bring back and extradite Carlos Ghosn from any relevant countries by relying on the Interpol system. For that reason, the international extradition law is really deciding the reason why he must actually or should actually stay in the region for his own safety. And Ghosn was, already eliminated from possible imprisonment, as he had conducted his own travel away from Japan by pulling off his eloping. He had successfully pulled off his exit from Japanese society by running away from it. He actually, sought his escapement. He actually had already pulled off his escapement by eloping away from Japanese judicial system. Because he was already literally disguised and concealed himself by placing himself in the wooden crater to pull off his escape. He literally covered himself inside the wood crater. Wood crater, can you understand it? Have you ever visited Crater and Barrel? This is American in a houseware in a commercial, handler. A crater, C-R-A-T-R, crater, crate. That's really a box, wooden box in a cradle, right? Have you ever visited Crater and Barrel? Allegedly, Ghosn was, disguised and camouflaged himself inside the tiny wood box to not to be caught by the Japanese authority while he was going through his escapement. He was pulling off his rendition to knock off the barriers to reach and land on the soil of Lebanon through Turkey. He literally had to pull off camouflage by hiding himself in the wood crater. He literally shoved himself down to be placed inside the wood box. Wood box is like this crater. It's really like cradle. You can actually have apples in a crater. A rotten apple in a crater would ruin the entire apples in the crater, right? The Lebanese justice has already allowed the former Nissan chief Carlos Ghosn to actually be kept in the country by preventing his further travel outside the country. That means, the Lebanese judicial system had already issued assignment to allow him to be accepted in the country while he was seeking his refugee. That had already been decided by the General Prosecutor Office in Beirut, following from their own hearing and investigation. And before that, the Japanese authorities had already issued off the possible extradition of the 65-year-old. The Japanese authority had already issued off a demand for extradition, resorting to the international police system to catch him and bring him back to the country with an eye to imprison the 65-year-old fugitive on the run at large, who somehow managed to pull off escapement. Shortly before the change of the year, Ghosn had already placed himself out of Japan, and he was somehow flown to Lebanon in a way that had been so spectacular that could never be imagined. Just like Houdini, he somehow managed to, realize his rendition. Allegedly, he actually disguised himself as if a cargo placed inside a tiny wood crater, that somehow pushing himself to be in the cargo. So he managed to be dismissed by authorities who were normally conducting the actual service for check-in and customs and declaration service, had not paid attention to that. No, I'm not lying. It has been written here. In a tiny wood crater, that would actually be used formally by American elite soldiers in tiny private jet. That means that he was allegedly capable of pulling off his rendition by shoving himself down and ramming himself down into the tiny wood crater that would actually normally would be used by the elite soldiers, by American military forces in tiny private jet. In Japan, Gossen is threatened to go through the process because of the accusations, and he is already been indicted with the possible charges for abusing the capital funds in the name of embezzlement and malversation. He's been under suspicion for these charges, and he has been accused of being liable for possible loss experienced by Nissan personally, because he is already accused of creating possible liabilities undertaken by Nissan to line up the pockets of his own personal asset and wealth through the misabuse and misappropriation and malversation and manipulation of the capital funds from the company. The 65-year-old was already arrested from the Japanese authorities in the fall of 2018 after his fall down from position as the chief executive of the car company association Nissan and Renault as a fusion company, and he was already sued at the time. And the actual prosecutor's office in Tokyo already finds him liable and guilty for taking away up to several $1 million, 2 digits $1 million high black money by fattening of his own wallet. That amounts to be 2-digit million. That means just several million, but starting with the 2 digits. Starting from 2 digits means like this. 2 digits. 2 digits million. I don't know where else I can say that. And he has already been accused of embezzling $2 million as a part of black money, and he was already under suspicion of having abused the capital fund that was supposed to be used for companies' well-being to enrich his own personal asset with no trust. He abused his trust and a position to enrich his personal fact. Gossen already actually went on fighting off the accusations by hiring lawyers, by denying any type of accusations piled upon him, saying, no, I had never done this kind of acts. I don't need to think twice about it. He has 3 passports. This chief executive, who is Lebanese and French and Brazilian, because he actually, maintains the citizenship of a 3 different country, triple citizenship holder. Would actually give over his French citizenship directly to the Lebanese authority, according to the media who already reported on it. And the actual prosecutor, defense attorney from Goshen, explained that his client would actually be very much satisfied with the judicial development in the case. The defense attorney of Goshen, as advocate and a defense lawyer who actually undertakes the job for his advocacy, explained that his own client would be very much satisfied with the development of the judicial process concerning his own case, right? That means I really have to. Because, I just really don't want to repeat the words. That would only increase, suspicions. I don't really need to. External Chef Goshen makes the one's flight to reach Lebanon. I don't really need to. Not like, do you want me to listen to it? I don't need to. What's so really unfair? Because I thought that I actually had a